Hi, I'm Muju, a solutions architect at Amazon Web Services. This is a quick demonstration video on how to set up single sign-on access to Amazon SageMaker Ground Truth for your workforce users. Customers leveraging identity providers like Microsoft Entra ID, Okta, and Ping Identity often seek centralized access control, strong authentication, and compliance-ready user management across their enterprises. By integrating Amazon SageMaker Ground Truth with AWS IAM Identity Center and Amazon Cognito, these organizations can extend their existing identity federation and single sign-on policies to labeling projects. This ensures that only authorized users can access sensitive training data. The result is a secure, compliant, and frictionless workforce experience that aligns data labeling pipelines with enterprise-wide zero trust identity standards, making machine learning model development safer and more scalable. In the next section of this video, I'll show you exactly how this can be configured. Before I switch over to the AWS Management Console, a quick note about the prerequisites for this setup. You need to enable AWS IAM Identity Center with an organization instance. Next, you'll have to set up an external IDP. In this video, I'm going to go with Okta with AWS IAM Identity Center using SCIM 2.0 auto provisioning feature. On your screen, you can see the QR codes for each of those two prerequisites. Please feel free to pause the video at this point, scan these QR codes to learn more. Alright, now let's switch over to the AWS Management Console to see how this can be configured. Alright, I'm logged into my AWS Management Console, and within the AWS Management Console, I'm going to go to Amazon Cognito service. For this demo, we're going to create a new user pool. Click on Create User Pool. Within this, we'll select Application as the traditional web application, give it a user-friendly name. I've given it a user-friendly name. We'll select email as one of the options for sign-in identifiers, and then in the preferred attributes, I'll select user's preferred email address. We'll leave the return URL as it is, and then we'll click on Create User Directory. Okay, so my new user pool has been created. As you can see the time here, it shows 14 seconds ago. I'll go ahead and click on this user pool. The first few things we need to do is make sure we take a note of the user pool ID. So I'll copy this user pool ID and save it in a text document. The next step we will have to make sure is we copy the domain URL. So I'll copy the domain URL for my Amazon Cognito domain and save it in a text file. Once that is copied, the next step is to go to AWS IAM Identity Center service and add Amazon Cognito as a customer managed application to AWS IAM Identity Center. For that, I'll go to AWS IAM Identity Center. I'll go to Applications. I'll go to Customer Managed. I'll click on Add Application. I have an application I want to set up. I'll select SAML 2.0. I'll click on Next. Okay, I've given it a user-friendly name for my application. I'll download the SAML metadata file. You will need this at a later step when you go ahead and add the identity provider within Amazon Cognito. So I'll download this XML file. After that download is complete, I will go all the way down to application metadata, and I'll start typing in the application ACS URL and application SAML audience. Now these values will come from the previous values that we have noted for user pool ID and the Amazon Cognito domain. For the application ACS URL, I will type the Amazon Cognito domain URL followed by SAML2 and then followed by IDP response. For the application SAML audience, I'll provide a value that looks like this: URN:\Amazon: Cognito: service provider as in SP, and then colon followed by the user pool ID that I copied in the previous step. Okay, I've copied the user pool ID. I've entered the values for the application ACS URL. Now I'll click on Submit. My configuration for SageMaker Ground Truth Demo Identity Center configuration is now ready. The next step in the process is go to the Actions page, click on Edit Attribute Mappings, and this is where we'll add a couple of attributes. So for subject, we'll provide this value. We'll select this as persistent. We'll add a new attribute, call it email, and then the value is user email, and then we'll select the format as basic. Click on Save Changes. There you go, SAML session successfully updated. The next step in the process is to assign my users and groups coming in from Okta, which is the external identity, to this application within AWS IAM Identity Center. So I'll click on Assign Users and Groups. I'll search for the user. Click on Assign. And my user should now have access to this application. Next step in the process is to add AWS IAM Identity Center as an external identity provider to Amazon Cognito user pool. For this, I'll open the Amazon Cognito user pool that I just created. On the left-hand side, I can see that there is social and external providers. I'll click on Add Identity Provider. I'll select SAML. I'll give it a user-friendly name. Here, I'll upload the XML document that I previously downloaded from the AWS IAM Identity Center service. Okay, I've uploaded the XML file, and for the email attribute, I'll just enter email and click on Add Identity Provider. There you go, my identity provider is successfully added now. The next step in the process is to make sure that I can use this identity provider that I just created inside Amazon Cognito user pool as one of the login configurations. For that, I will go to my app client. I'll open up the app client. I'll click on login pages. I'll click on edit. This is where I'll have the option to select AWS IAM Identity Center identity provider that I just created from the dropdown. And for OAuth 2 grant types, I'll select implicit grant as well. Leave everything as it is. Click on Save Changes. And this should complete the configuration between your Cognito user pool app client and AWS IAM Identity Center. In order to validate this setup, I'll go ahead and create a private team within SageMaker Ground Truth. So the first step is create private team with AWS Cognito. And then from here, I can select import workers from existing Amazon Cognito user groups. For this, first I'll give a user-friendly name. I gave a user-friendly name, and then I'll select the Amazon Cognito user pool that we just created, which is CEYH4Q. After that, I'll select the app client, SageMaker Ground Truth demo. This should list your Amazon Cognito user groups that you just created. Create private team. One of the things that you'll notice now, if you go to the user pool app client, is your SageMaker Ground Truth plus login URL is now available as a callback URL, and there is also a sign out URL that has been added. To validate this setup, I've opened up a separate browser and I'm going to paste my SageMaker private workforce login URL. I'll click on continue with SageMaker Ground Truth demo IDC, and it redirects me to the identity provider. This is where I'll go ahead and enter my Okta credentials. In order to test this, I've now entered my email address. Click on next. I'll make sure I enter the password. I've entered the password successfully. Now it's asking me to enter the MFA, which I've done. I'll click on verify, and this should take me to the page where I have the SageMaker Ground Truth labeling jobs that are assigned against my user. This concludes our demo. Let's summarize how we implemented single sign-on for SageMaker Ground Truth using AWS IAM Identity Center and Amazon Cognito. First, we created a traditional web application client in our Amazon Cognito user pool. Then we established a two-way integration between our services by adding Amazon Cognito as a customer-managed application in AWS IAM Identity Center, and conversely, adding AWS IAM Identity Center as an external identity provider to our Cognito user pool. We then updated our app client's login configuration to use this newly added identity provider. With these connections in place, we created a private workforce team in SageMaker Ground Truth service using our configured Cognito user pool. The end result: workforce users can now securely access the Ground Truth Jobs portal through a streamlined single sign on experience, eliminating the need for separate credentials while maintaining enterprise grade security. This integration simplifies access management for administrators and improves the user experience for your labeling workforce, making it easier to scale your machine learning data labeling operations. In order to get started with this integration, I'll leave you with some helpful documentation. Feel free to pause the video at this point and scan the QR code to explore these resources further. Thank you.